What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So the New York Jets start their season off with a loss. Of course, all of our division opponents happen to have won their first week matchups, and this really was always going to be a very rough period for us, right? 3 games, 10 days. Not something that's ideal for any team, right? But especially one that still needs to be able to prove that we're not in the basement of the NFL. And we didn't really do anything in this game to avoid that. Now, there's a ton of positives that I can pull out of this if I'm being honest with myself. But that's in comparison to what we saw last year, which was historically piss poor. So now anything can look like a huge upgrade, even if you're playing as, the 28th best offense versus what we got to see with Zach Wilson and the likes. But nonetheless, I think this is a season unlike any other where it is very important to be critical. I'm all for giving everybody their due diligence, and I usually always do. But we do need to, much like the coaching staff should be drilling in on every particular weakness and issue that we're seeing here. And there's definitely a ton this game. And this was a rare one because it felt like not only was the offense a letdown, defensively there was also a letdown. And I think what I put in the title definitely matches my experience watching this game pretty well, in that the players felt lackadaisical. Not that I'm comparing them to the Rex Ryan's days where we had all of the passionate players that were very vocal and had no problem telling you about it. But it all just almost felt like nobody was really in an uproar about the mistakes and the lack of execution that we had coming out of this game, which was a bit of a surprise, right? We've seen Garrett Wilson get animated pretty quickly. We've seen Aaron Rodgers and how he's handled his teams previously. So I think everybody was just kind of staying in tune with the outward expression from Aaron Rodgers, which to my surprise, there was really nothing to call out at. Basically shook his head, kind of had some disappointed faces when we had the drops and the different things going on. But I didn't see anything crazy. Now, with that said, diving into some of the actual call-outs here, Breece Hall, he is a guy that surprised me in this game because this is easily one of the worst ones that I have seen, and without diving into the 22, but it felt like there was a lot of dancing going on where he could have really put his foot in the ground on certain occasions after waiting for some blocks to try to be set up, and could have cranked out those 3 to 4 yard type plays that Robert Saleh called him out on before. But in this case, it was almost looking like he was waiting to try to break something big on each particular pass, and it kind of run play, and it ended up working against him. And a couple of things that I caught out in training camp, which only one reared his head this game, one of them being the fumbles that he was having on the pitch run plays from Aaron Rodgers over training camp. Didn't occur in this game, but the other one was the hands, right? We hype up his ability in the receiving game quite a bit, but it is after the ball is secured. There are still some concerns for me with his ability to pull the ball in, make sure it's tucked properly, and then be able to utilize all of the athleticism and the things that make him special before after he's made sure that the ball security is there. So you tie that up, the multiple drop passes, with I think the indecisive running style that I've seen from him today, and then of course the fumble that got punched out from him, is definitely a day that should look vastly different when we go and face the Titans. Garrett Wilson, I think, as advertised, right, you've seen the connection on a ton of throws that we've seen in training camp, man-on-man coverage, defender with back to the ball, and Aaron Rodgers is locking in on Garrett Wilson the entire time, looking to kind of get that easy 10 to 12-yard completion. Allen Lazard, Butterfingers early. He did turn around with some big stuff, but I think that was more a chemistry type situation, not to really dog him out. I know he got 2 touchdowns and I think 6 catches, which, by the way, I love the fact that Rodgers called himself out for needing to improve his performance. Easily one of his worst games in his entire career. Only made passes to 3 receivers in this game, which is by far the lowest number of his entire career that I saw, which is really crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Very, very interesting, right? Allen Lazard, he was on the receiving end of, essentially some free plays and then a couple open looks where Aaron Rodgers was able to buy some time, stepping up in the pocket, kind of doing a little sidestep here and there. So I won't take those away from him, but obviously that first series is a pretty big indication of the wild swings that you get with Allen Lazard. Easily dropped open passes, and then of course he'll make some of those back shoulder throws and some of those easy things where you get the free play, and maybe the stress level mentally isn't there because he knows worst case scenario we're still getting those additional yards and most likely a new first down. But still, it's very odd, right? The game plan felt, I don't know, non-lethal, right? I've seen in a couple of articles the adjective toothless put out there when it comes to comparing the New York Jets versus the 49ers. But when you go back to thinking about the tiers of the NFL, you've seen a great game from the likes of the Ravens and the Chiefs. Obviously, we're not on that level. I think solidly you have to put us, I would honestly argue, at the average tier right now, right? This was a performance much like you kind of seen the Bengals put up, but even they were at least, if I'm remembering correctly, able to have a strong running game, right? So there is a focus that we've had on that, but that the execution definitely needs to be at a much higher level. So again, I'm expecting a big turnaround. But defensively, it was also really weird. I know we finally got comments around Sauce Gardner, what happened with him essentially missing, the entire second quarter, where he mentioned just kind of getting his breath knocked out. I think there may have been a little bit more to it. I can't remember on that play. I don't think it was necessarily an assignment breakdown or anything. It was Debo kind of scrambling around, and then he hit Sauce Gardner's right side of his shoulder, I believe. And, with him being kind of the wiry, thin, long frame type, those kind of things can definitely shake you up a bit. I don't think it's really the knocked out a win type situation. So I think there was maybe some concern about the shoulder, and they let it play out just to see if anything lingered for a bit. But outside of that, I mean, MC2 seemed like he played it a little bit cautious, right? Wasn't much undercutting on things when he was looking to not bite on some double moves there. And then, of course, the tackling. That was really going to be one of the biggest things that I was looking for during this game, because the 49ers is essentially the big brother to our offense and defense, right? When you want to get down to the nitty and gritty of it, they execute yards after catch at a higher level. They execute the play calling in general at a higher level, right? Kyle Juszczyk, elite fullback, but there's no way he should be killing us down the field on plays. And, Ashton Davis was definitely singled out on a lot of those instances. But yeah, it was, I don't know, the very few and far in between great plays. They found a way to force Jermaine Johnson outside of being able to attack the quarterback in a lot of situations, and didn't really seem like Purdy had a ton of pressures on him or anything. You loop that into the fact that really the only elite play in the secondary, the only two that come to mind was Sauce Gardner's initial breakup of Brandon Ayuk's pass, and then the Tony Adams ball, which really he did a great job of reading Purdy's eyes and being able to make a break on the ball and just couldn't corral it in with one arm. But outside of that, there wasn't a ton, right? It didn't feel like the usual lockdown coverage that we provide. Didn't really feel like the communication was as strong as it usually was. Again, citing the fullback big plays that were broken out. And, just some of the backyard football stuff that Deebo Samuel was getting away with, where at certain points, I'm pretty sure he was like 15 to 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he's running from the right side all the way to the left side and still essentially being able to get back to the line of scrimmage or break out some positive yardage. So obviously, paying attention to the broadcast in and of itself, the interior of our defense got ate alive by Jordan Mason. And I almost kind of called it when I seen the CMC news initially break that he wasn't going to play. It kind of felt like a dig to me in my mind initially, where the 49ers felt like we don't need to sacrifice the health of CMC to get the job done today. And that was able to get proven. And, maybe that's a lot of familiarity with what Kinlaw's weakness was and how to manipulate Michael Clemens, who also had a very, very bad day. I thought he'd go back to having some of that elite run presence. But at this point, it's looking like he may only look like a pretty solid defender when he's facing tight ends. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think at this point. I'm pretty frustrated with everything overall, but again, I can't really wait to dive into the All-22 and really see what looks egregious as opposed to just stuff that, from a consistency standpoint will get eliminated, once we kind of really get back into the flow of things. But let me know what your guys' takeaways from this game was, and do you expect a strong bounce back for the Titans game? And I'll catch you again. Peace.